Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat-padam Śaṅkaram Loka-Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavataye Shuddha-jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Śaṅkara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. We were seeing after the preliminaries, when one really gets down to learning what Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam are to be followed. So we saw Brahmaikaksharam Arthyatam, Shrutishiro Vakyam Samakarnyatam, Vakyatascha Vicharyatam, Shrutishrapakshas Samashriyatam, Dustarkatsu Viramyatam, Shrutimatas Tarkonu Sandhiyatam, Brahmaivasmi Vibhavyatam, Aharaha Garva Parityajyatam, Teheham Matirujyatam, Buddhajanaihi Vada Parityajyatam. To saying Deheham Matirujyatam, may through Shravanam and through analysis of what is being said, using all the capacity our brain has, arrive at the absolute certainty that the individuality that I experience is not a true, is not the truth. That individuality is like a space in a pot. That pot space is non-separate from space. Space is not something which can be divided. Therefore, a pot space wrongly identifying itself with the pot cannot lament, oh, I am such a small space. Look at that pot. It has a big space. Although you don't really want a pot belly. But the pot will look at itself and say, how am I such a small pot space? Because of the wrong identification. The very starting point of all our misconceptions. So he says here, Aharaha Garva Parityajyatam. That Garva, any thought arising from identification with the container, not really a container, the upadhi, container only for our understanding. identifying with the pot and saying, I'm a pot, small pot space. But Upadhi is more than just container. Upadhi is simply by its presence, it imbues its own character on another object. Like any colored cloth sitting next to a crystal. It makes the crystal appears or take on the color of the cloth, background cloth. Crystal is unaffected. Space is unaffected simply because we think of it as small pot space. Sometimes I find it's very interesting that it doesn't matter which text we are doing. Somehow, in the Gita class also I'm saying the same thing. Here also I'm saying the same. I don't know how this coincidence happens. But it's a fact that our problem is with this identification. Everything else arises from this. Because of this, I say I'm limited, I'm unhappy, I am insecure. All that comes from there. The pot breaks, space is still remain the same. Space has not changed. You remove the cloth behind the crystal. Crystal remains exactly what it was. No change. So through an analysis of the words of the Shastra, otherwise one will not even think about this. One may not think about how the Sharira, the Sthula Sukshma Sharira cannot possibly be I. It might occur to us. Or even if it does occur, it's superficial thought and let go. Shastra says, think about it. You cannot be this body. Number of methods it gives you to check this out. And all these are absolutely logical. It is where you use logic. Logic, after hearing the Shastra as unfolded by the Guru, is where this logic is used to get clarity. I am not this body. The confusion comes because the body is I. The mind is I. The thoughts are I. The feelings are I. But I am none of these. What I call an unequal equation. A is equal to B, B is not equal to A. Something which we find difficult to absorb. Therefore, you need the assistance of a pramana and the assistance of a guru. Because he says, Brahma eva ahamasmi. Iti vibhavyatam. Again and again and again. Think about it. After having arrived at the first truth that this body is I, but I am not the body or anything to do with it. And removing or reconciling every other thought, notion, idea that we have met up. Because once Shastra says you are Purna, infinite, there can be nothing else. Anything which says anything different has to be wrong. You cannot say I am infinite minus 10. It is either infinite or not infinite. You cannot have in between. So every other philosophy, every other theory, hypothesis has to have a flaw somewhere. Whether it is a theory that I have concocted over a period of time using my own observations, my own intelligence, my own analysis, or because I've taken the cue from somebody else. Somebody who tells me that there's one life, we have no way of understanding what happens after this life is over. Therefore, enjoy this life. Pradam kritva dhutam pibhet. A philosophy. So examine all those philosophies very carefully, very critically. And this much conclusion one arrives at saying, none of these is true. I am not any of these. Then you look at what Shastra says, that you are Purnaha. And that part we do through Nididhyasana. There is a big difference between Dhyanam and Nididhyasana. Dhyanam is contemplative thinking. And you do Dhyanam to try and help get Ekagrata. And for that you need something on which you can bring Ekagrata. And therefore we do Dhyanam on Ishvara. Saguna Brahma Dhyanam. In fact, very definition of Dhyanam is Saguna Brahma Manasika Vyapara. But when it comes to Nididhyasana, there is no object on which you can bring focus. How are we going to understand? Therefore, we depend upon Shabda. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. All the words that are used by the Shastra, which are unfolded by the Guru, each word is available to do Nididhyasana. So all this he's covered, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Deheham mati ujyatam. Tejyatam. And then there seems to be something unconnected. Buddhajanaihi vadha parityajyatam. All this time we've been very sequentially talking about Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Suddenly, out of the blue, Buddhajanaihi vadha parityajyatam. Don't get involved in a vada with Buddha, Buddhiman, with Jnani. Why do we get into any kind of vada, any kind of debate, any kind of argument? Because we have an idea. This idea is drawn from a lot of our own experiences and what we've read, what we've heard. And somewhere a conviction comes that this has got to be right. And because there is no pramana, no means of knowledge for this, it's all gathered here and there. A means of knowledge which is indisputable. Therefore, it becomes a conjecture at best. And when it is like that, and I'm convinced of the conjecture, then one tends to get very aggressive about this. If the Taliban is convinced about his way of thinking with no pramana, he will be very aggressive. Understandable. He will not be able to say, okay, you think what you think, I think what I think. because there is no pramana. Yeah. Oh, he might come and say, no, my Quran is my pramana, but Quran does not meet the criteria to be called a pramana. There's a bit of discussion on that we'll have. What is pramana? That is true of anybody who has come to a conclusion and is so convinced of it, we try and find arguments from wherever we can and try to convince the other. Most drawing room debates are like that. It starts with a very casual remark somebody makes. Somebody else says, no, it's not like that. Americans have a great plan. They are going to do something in the next 2-3 years. How do you know? I arrived at it by looking at various bits and pieces of information. Says Americans are idiots. They have only self-interest. Even that they do very badly. They want to sell arms. Two different points of view. A vada generally means a discussion between two people. But there can be many types of vada. Very interesting analysis that has been done. Generally, vada implies a discussion between two equals with an open mind, each willing to present his point of view or her point of view, and the other one is willing to listen. By this definition, think of all the vadas that you've heard in your life. See, tell me how many of them really are vada like this. Typically, a debate between a boy and a girl or a man and a wife doesn't fall into this category. Like I said, typically the drawing room discussions don't fall into the category. Even the other fellow is making a point. This fellow is not listening. He's already formulating what he's going to say. But a vada is between two people who have a point of view based on certain pramana and the interpretation thereof, who are both willing to listen to the other. The great discussion between Śaṅkaracharya and Mandana Mishra. You heard of that? Śaṅkaracharya went around the whole country debating with people. It's an open debate. There were many points of view. Those days, the biggest opposing point of view was karmata. Once who said, you have to do karma to gain moksha. And Śaṅkaracharya said, karma cannot give you moksha. Karma can only give you certain preparation. Moksha has only one way, and that is know that you are mukta. How can karma come into the play? Well, it's a big argument. So Mandana Mishra was one of them with whom he spent a lot of discussion. Both totally open to listen to the other. Eventually, of course, Mandana Mishra accepted that he made a mistake in the way he arrived at that conclusion, that karma is the path to moksha. And once he'd done that, he was completely transformed and became Śaṅkaracharya's Shishya. changed his name also, called Sureshwaracharya. That is Vada. Most discussions we have don't fall into this category. There's another type of Vada called Samvada. When you go to somebody who is knowledgeable, you'll recognize that that person is knowledgeable. So there is a teacher-student relationship. That kind of Vada is called Samvada, like the discussion between Arjuna and Bhagavan Krishna. Krishna-Arjuna Samvade, we say every time we finish a chapter. There, the person who's gone to gain this knowledge has to go with an open mind. That is why in all the texts we've read, it says, go to a guru, Samit Panihi, we saw in Mundaka Upanishad, Paniprate, Paripran, but with the Pranipatena, with an attitude of saying, please teach me. When one goes with that attitude, again, one listens. So both these, in one case, both listen. In the second case, the student goes and says, I will hear what the teacher has to say. I will think about it. I will contemplate upon it. And I will see how it seems to differ from what I thought I knew. Because I've come here to learn. The teacher also listens to the student. He knows the student will have a lot of questions because he already has certain ideas in his head. The student will present those ideas saying, why is it not like this? Why was I ever born? Teacher will listen to him because he's probably heard this before. So both will listen. But here the relationship is between that of a teacher and a student, not Samvada. Like I said, majority of Vada discussions don't fall into either these categories because nobody listens. So what happens? There is one other Vada called Jalpa. I have formulated a theory. My objective in this Vada is to somehow impose it upon the other person. So I am not listening to him at all. I am only trying to find arguments to bolster my idea. All kinds of examples I come up with. The unfortunate part is the other fellow doing exactly the same. He's got an idea and he's coming up and saying, this is the right thing. What you're saying is not right. So neither listen to the other. These are people who have beliefs. The moment you say, I believe, very often one will fall into this kind of discussion only. Trying to somehow convince the other that what I'm saying is right. So obviously no listening takes place. It's called Jalpa. There is another one called Vitanda. Where one person's whole point of this debate is to prove the other guy wrong. whatever he says, I don't accept. I superficially listen to what he's saying and negate it. There was a court case going on. And the lawyer for prosecution was an old man. When he came to the court, he forgot to bring his dentures. So he came to the court and the judge asked him to make a summary presentation. So he got up and said, and immediately the other lawyer, I object, Your Honor. He asked him, what do you object to? So whatever he said, I object to it. It is pure Vitanda. Whatever he says is wrong. So Vitanda and Jalpa, you never listen to the other person. Buddha janaihi vada parityajyatam. If you Buddha jana, if you accept that the person knows, it can be no form of vada other than samvada. Any other form of vada, please give up. May any other vada which attempts to prove that what he is saying is wrong, or in which the person now, the mumukshu, somehow tries to prove that what he has concluded is correct, nor even is it an two equals debating. The definition of Buddha janaihi with Buddha janas, with jnanis, don't get into unnecessary argument. Now, what he's said so far, and there seems to be a disconnect. He's been saying all along how to do nididhyasanam. These are adjuncts to that if you want. This and what follows. If you start getting into this kind of argument, the mind cannot be in a state to do any nididhyasanam, not even dhyana. So he says, Buddha janaihi vada parityajyatam. So these and what follows from here is really to say, if a person is a sannyasi, because we've already said he's a sannyasi, karma parityajyatam, need not necessarily be a formal sannyasi. It can be manasika sannyasi. One who has absolute clarity that this is what I want to gain. Mokṣā is what I want to gain. Whether he is a sannyasi or a karma yogi, the body has to live. If the body has to live, the body has to be fed. Just because I'm a jnani, I cannot say I will not eat. Food is absolutely necessary. How should food be treated? Food is necessary because of hunger. What should be one's approach to hunger? I said these are now some complementary things to nididhyasanam. Things which will help us not be distracted. One is No vada with Buddha Janaihi. Buddha Janaha. And the other very common thing we need to have 3 times a day is food. One can even think of Buddha Jana Vada as a function of the tongue. Hold your tongue. Vak tapas. But food also can be thought of as function of the tongue. Shuddh vyadishcha chikitsyata. Vyadi, we all know. Any form of illness. We don't want it because it makes us uncomfortable. Whether it's a headache or a stomachache, makes us uncomfortable. Therefore, when we have vyadi, what do? We accept the vyadi and we have medicine to try and get rid of the vyadi. The vyadi that gives us discomfort. Now look at hunger. Hunger makes one uncomfortable. And hunger also has to be appeased. Like you treat vyadi, hunger is also a type of vyadi only. Should this hunger, vyadishcha chikitsyata, treat it like you would treat any vyadi. Chikitsyata, kit dhatu. So you give it something to appease that hunger. If you think of it like that, then anything that satisfies it and appeases hunger can be thought of as medicine. When you say medicine, there are 2-3 things come to mind immediately. You don't take medicine unnecessarily. Although there are some hypochondriacs who like to take medicine all the time. But you don't really take medicine unnecessarily. Only when there is vyadi do you take medicine to get rid of the vyadi. You don't eat paracetamol to appease hunger. You eat paracetamol because of pain somewhere and don't get an ordinary fever. Only when there is vyadi. I remember reading when we were in school, Avayar saying, Pashittapin Pushi. Eat only when you're hungry. Because that hunger has to be treated as vyadi and has to be appeased. So this is one thing. Eat only when there is hunger. Because it is medicine. It is a vyadi that has to be treated. Vyadi comes occasionally. So you take medicine at that time. This vyadi, hunger, comes repeatedly 3 times a day, 4 times a day. Must also be dealt with. Vyadi makes you uncomfortable, hunger makes you uncomfortable. For vyadi, you take medicine. For hunger also you take medicine. Whatever you eat, you take as medicine. The second thing is, you take it only as prescribed. Doctor has given you a whole lot of paracetamol. Says, take one in the morning, take one at night. In the evening, you don't say, along with tea, let me have some paracetamol. There's no need. Hunger also has to be dealt with in the same way. Another thing is dosage. You have a cough, doctor says, take 1 tablespoon of this cough syrup in the morning and take 1 tablespoon in the night. So the fellow takes 1 tablespoon and finds it very tasty. So he drinks the whole bottle up. That's not allowed. Not going to help you with the vyadi. Same thing applies to hunger as a vyadi. That has to be treated as vyadi. Another thing about vyadi and its medicine. The medicine may not be tasty. It may be bitter. Although I don't understand why they can't make it tasty. But you have to take. You don't have a choice. You try various methods. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. There's a song like that. I remember having heard that long time ago. You have to take. It is bitter. So what? I still have to take it. And then with the tablet, many people can't swallow tablets. It's true. And even if you can't swallow, what do? You throw the tablet right at the end of the tongue. Because I know that the bitterness is felt in the beginning of the tongue. So if I throw the end of it, hopefully I will not feel the bitterness. But you have to eat bitter. Various types of kashayam they'll give you if you go for Ayurvedic treatment. Some of them are quite unpleasant. In fact, even some of the lehyam they give you, the ghee, you can't easily take, they'll say, take 2 tablespoons of this. Very difficult to take. I find it very difficult. But with medicine, you have to take, you have no choice. Like that, in hunger also, it has to be when there is hungry, when there's hunger, you take food. You take food in limited quantity as prescribed. You take it whether it is bitter or sweet. And you don't take it whenever you want. You take it only when it's prescribed. And you take only the amount, the dosage that is given. Shruvyadisya chikitsyataṃ. Treat it like vyadhi and don't let it become a distraction. There was a story of a brahmachari who was in a Gurukulam. Every day the Guru Patni used to make some food and give him. And he used to quietly eat because he was studying with the Guru. One day, he asked the Guru Patni, what is this, ma? Guru heard that and said, your studying is over, you can go. If your mind has got distracted into that, into what the food is, what is the taste of the food, etc., then the focus from what you're doing will go. So nididhyasanam, if it has to be maintained, then this kind of distraction is not good. The nididhyasanam is not simply that half an hour I will sit and do nididhyasanam in the morning. Everything we do is nididhyasanam. That becomes nididhyasanam. Because you're not doing dhyanam on a particular object. You're trying to understand the whole idea of I. Therefore, throughout, if one can keep the thought, the first step in that is accepting everything is Ishvara. That itself is difficult. Incidentally, there was a cobra in Arshavidyalaya a couple of days ago. I remember it because I'm told that the cobra, called Nalla Pambu in Tamil, is supposed to be auspicious. You see a cobra. You see Ishvara in that. Because we managed to get hold of a fellow from the forest department, took it away and released it in the forest. Everything, even if it looks dangerous, it's looked bhayanak. Can we see Ishvara there? If it looks ugly, can we see Ishvara there? Then move to the next step, Nididhyasanam. When everything I do only brings the focus back to what I'm trying to understand. And anything that distracts me from there is going to at least delay the whole process of understanding. So if you treat hunger as another vyadhi, how should one approach food? As medicine. Therefore, food to be taken to cure the vyadhi when the vyadhi is there in the right quantity and not worrying about whether I like the taste or I don't like the taste. Vyadishcha chikitsyataṃ pratidinam bhikshaushadam bhujyatam. That bhujyatam, what you may eat to appease the hunger, may it be treated as aushadam. Every day, pratidinam, because unfortunately, hunger happens every day. Pratidinam bhiksha aushadam bhujyatam. Take that bhiksha as aushadhi. This I said he's addressing a sannyasi. A formal sannyasi eats what bhiksha he gets. One day he might get very good bhiksha, one day he may not get bhiksha, one day he may not get anything at all. It does not take away his attention. But this is true also of a grahastha, for example. If the grahastha is already reached the state of manasika sannyasa, he too needs to look at every food that he can get as bhiksha. Whatever is given. That is only to keep the body going. And why do you want to keep the body going? Before I have understood the truth, I need the body and all its components to understand the truth. And preferably in as good a condition as we can get it. After a person has become a Jivan Mukta Purusha, why does he need the body? He doesn't need the body. But his prarabdha karma needs the body. Without the body, the prarabdha karma will not be exhausted. And to exhaust the prarabdha karma, the body continues. Pleasant experiences, not so pleasant experiences. Bhikshaushadam bhujyatam. Even in in a house, in a home, how do you convert food into bhiksha? Two things. One, you don't eat first. You first offer it to another jiva. Or you offer it to Ishvara by doing nevedyam. So every day food is cooked, and because it's being offered to Ishvara, you will not have stale food. And you will have only vegetarian food. Aushadam. Aushadam comes from plants. Aushadam is only vegetarian food. You offer it to Ishvara. Once it's offered to Ishvara, then we accept that Ishvara gives it to you as bhiksha. You take whatever. Inevitably, I find that when something has been given as nevedyam and then you get it as prasada, it is very good aushadam, very tasty aushadam. You go to any temple and eat the prasada, it's very enjoyable. But you get it as prasada. That prasada is bhiksha. When we were studying, there were periods when the food was very routine. Other periods were very good. Routine or otherwise, you eat what you get because it's bhiksha. And it is bhiksha, and therefore you don't look the gift horse in the mouth. Have you heard that expression? It is given to you. You know how they test the horse? They look at the teeth of the horse. And that's how they determine how healthy that horse is. You're getting a gift horse, you don't open mouth and see whether I'm getting a good horse or not. Accept it. That's the expression. Don't look the gift horse in the mouth. In Bhagavad Gita also he says, one who does not share his food, does not do nevedyam and eats himself, is considered a thief. Whole mindset changes away from main goal, mokṣā. Therefore, nididhyasana becomes more difficult, if not impossible. Shrutyadishcha chikitsyatam pratidinam bhikshaushadam bhujyatam. Eat your food as bhiksha, as aushadam, just to appease this vyadi called hunger. Oh, Swami G, I want some nice food. I crave for my mother's paratha. This happens. All young people, when they go away to the hostel or travel abroad, at home they want to eat burger, pizza, everything. They don't want to eat food cooked at home. And then they go to the hostel. Ma, I want the paratha that you make, or whatever, rasam you make. All of us have gone through that. Because I want the taste I like. But if it is aushadam, where is the question of taste? Medicine. Medicine could be bitter. Like when, I don't know how many of you have gone through them, maybe your small children, regularly, I think once a month, we were given castor oil. Vadakanna. We used to hate that, to cleanse the stomach. But I had to take it, no choice. Nevertheless, you have to go close your mouth and just swallow it. But even then, it doesn't go away. The smell doesn't go away. The taste doesn't go away. Sādhanam natu yachyatam. Don't hanker after the taste that you want. Taste as a factor removed from the equation. Swadishta annam. According to me, this is swadishtam. That not also is not common. Everybody doesn't have the same thing. One person likes Bangalore Katrika, another person doesn't. Natu yachyatam. Do not yachyatam, literally the word is beg for. Don't beg for food that is tasty for you. Whatever you get, accept. You appease the hunger, you're back to your normal routine of looking at life as a continuous nididhyasana. Can you make puri today? Puri aloo. I feel like eating puri aloo. Whatever you get, do nevedyam. I keep saying, those of you who come to Arshavidyalaya know this. Every day here you get very tasty food. Every day. But quietly eat it. Enjoy it. That's wonderful that way. It does not say don't enjoy it. You know, I've got tasty food today, so let me add some extra salt in that and make it not tasty. That's not the idea. You don't hanker after Sādhana. What you get, may one be happy with that. Sādhanam natu yachyatam vidhivashat praptena santushyatam. If you live in Arshavidyalaya or in your own homes for that matter, and you get good food every day, morning and evening, that is your vidhi, your prarabdha. Be happy with it. And then one day, the lady of the house is unwell. So a third-rate maid is asked to cook the food. And it turns out to be terrible. Then also, vidhivashat praptena santushyatam. Even then, be content with what you get. On the day you get food that you really like, enjoy. But don't overeat, because it is medicine, remember. Take only the right dosage. And on days it is not good, then also you take it as medicine. Like I said, one day the lady of the house is not available. So you could get food from outside. Some C3 fellow has given you food, not tasty at all. Stop cursing. Eat it. It is medicine. So if your vidhi is such that you get good food, 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 and one day bad food, treat it the same way. Or if your vidhi is such that you get bad food, bad food, bad food, good food, good food, bad food, bad food, bad food, it's your vidhi. That's your prarabdha. Accept. I know one person who was so finicky when he was a child that he would take out every onion piece from his food and keep it aside. Forget garlic. Onion also he would keep aside. In the house, who cooked had onion, and so he would remove every piece of onion. Then he got married. And his wife was a great fan of garlic. She used to think that no food is edible if it doesn't have garlic in it. No choice. Today he eats food with garlic in everything. That can be quite tough. I remember once I'd gone to Pune for a meeting in my Purvashrama days, and we were discussing till late. Only about 3 o'clock, everybody was hungry. We went to eat some lunch. And I looked at the menu and I felt that everything had garlic in it. I couldn't stomach it. Then there was one item which said curd rice. I said, that should be safe. So I ordered curd rice. And the fellow brought curd rice. Even as he was bringing it, a whiff of garlic. That they put garlic tadka, I think. So I said, please take it back. Give me something without garlic in it. And here is this fellow who never had onion as garlic. Vannam natu yachyatam vidivashat praptena santushyatam. What you get? Swami G, shouldn't I do something about it? If you can, please do. But that is not the focus in life. You are now crossed so many steps. 24 steps you've already crossed out of the 40 steps. Because 3 verses we've completed. You're already a sannyasi. Manasika or otherwise. Entire focus is on gaining the jnanam. Therefore, one gives this relatively minimal attention. Sometimes it happens when you're working very seriously, you're concentrating on work. And somebody comes and keeps some food in front of you, but you don't want to be distracted what you're doing. But you're hungry also. So you continue to do what you're doing and keep eating what is there. And eventually find that it's giving you something you don't like at all. But after eating. Because your attention is not there. Attention is on what you're doing. So when the attention is on this idea of gaining mokṣā, and therefore now at this stage on nididhyāsanam, then food becomes just an aushadam to keep the body alive and to remove hunger. One can also look at this, although I have not seen any text which talks about this, one can also look at it in another way, in a more general way, which we'll do tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.